Falls Municipal Utility Advisory Board meeting for Monday, June 17th, 2024. Lene, could we have the roll call, please?
Bartles,
Present.
Bjork, present. Carroll, Gardner,
Present.
Klecker,
Present.
Lick,
Present.
Toom,
Here.
Moving on, looking for an approval of the minutes from the UAB meeting on May 20th. Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. All right, this is the time in the meeting for public comment. Do we have anyone that wants to come forward and say a few words this evening? 2 months in a row, you're not talkative. All right, fair enough. Moving on. Fair enough. Moving on to the consent agenda, acknowledgement of the meeting minutes from the West Central Wisconsin Biosolids Facility Commission from May 16th, 2024. Looking for a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I actually have a couple questions for Kevin. Can you expand upon a little bit that they did have a spill of centrate? Could you talk about that a little bit further? I know you provided me with some documentation from the DNR. If you could just kind of expand upon that a little bit.
So wastewater spills are taken very seriously in the state of Wisconsin, and if it's 5 gallons, you must report it. Ask Dean because he knows that. Synagro is a company that picks up our sludge and hauls sludge back to Ellsworth and centrate back here. They do that for all the communities. Well, they had a connection issue where they lost 500 gallons on the ground near West Central Wisconsin Biosolids, and they did the right thing and they reported that to the DNR. The DNR then asks for a full report of what they're going to do to correct the issue and then things they've learned from this and what they're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. And Randy Lindquist from West Central Biosolids completed that full report and gave a list of, I think, 5 items that they were going to do in the future to make sure that doesn't happen again. So there was no public notice or anything needed, but they did communicate with the DNR and got that buttoned up so it doesn't happen again.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. And I do, if anybody on the board wants, I do have the letters here from the state. If anybody is interested, just take a look at them.
Just a quick add-on to that. I think it was, I don't know, we were doing the bypass out front here maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago when we were doing the North Interceptor project. There was a pinhole in one of those hoses. I think it was like 5 to 10 gallons. They thought maybe made it to the river, and that we had to do a full DNR report for that. And they made us have a person walk that length of that hose for like 3 days, 24 hours a day, for 3 days to ensure that that didn't happen again. So they take that very seriously, even a small amount.
Thank you, Kevin. And then can you, the other thing I noticed in their minutes is that the grant money is held up.
Yeah, so held up is an interesting term. I think we're still trying to acquire it. And I was even on emails again today with the consultant that's trying to help us acquire that money. And I said, are there any more hurdles to jump, or are we just waiting? So we're about 1.5 years into this, and they did give us a routing number. So we are really close. I think there might have been one more thing for us to fill out, and we were trying to figure out what that was. But we are probably weeks away from having that into the account and over to West Central.
How much is, how much?
1.6 million. Okay. And River Falls did receive a check from West Central for $10,000 for administering that over the last year. So just administrative costs to handle that. And there'll be some audit things we have to do with that as well, since we received the money that we're giving to them. So we received that check, but didn't receive the money from the feds yet. But we're working on that, and there's a routing number, so I believe we're close.
You were closer.
Yes.
Excellent. With that being said, any further discussion? Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. All right, moving on to new business. Item number 3 is the election of the Utility Advisory Board officers.
Yeah, Mr. Lick, annually we have to do this at this point in the year. And last year you were appointed, and I think you've done a great job. And Mr. Timothy Toom has been the vice chair, and understand that you're both willing and able to do it again, but it's up to your board to decide. So that's where I'm at.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kevin. Tim and I are the dynamic duo, so it's fantastic. We are looking for a nomination for the board chair.
I'll nominate Chris.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I am now the board chair. All right. So now we are looking for a nomination for the board vice chair.
I nominate Tim.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? You want to say a few words, Tim?
No, thank you.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Tim is the board chair. All right. Moving on to new business item number 4. Resolution regarding the review of the wastewater treatment plant 2023 compliance maintenance annual report.
So this is a report, Chair Lick, that we're required to do every year for the Department of Natural Resources and for our Utility Advisory Board and City Council and for the community's confidence in our wastewater treatment plant system. And Dean is here today, Dean Seamuth is here today to give a little presentation on the CMAR. He said he'd have us out of here by 9:30. Actually, this is one of those things that just goes totally unnoticed, right? We're all flushing our toilets, we're all using our systems. We have staff in place to make sure everything's working. And this report says we're doing it well. And Dean, take it away.
Thank you. I apologize, this wasn't in your packet. We had trouble getting some numbers that we didn't get it done in time, so. Otherwise, it would have been in your packet, so you gotta bear with me. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing unless you really want me to. We got a 4.0, we got solid A's, so. The couple things I wanted to talk about, Kevin asked me about this earlier today. And looking at our flow and our loading history from, come on, I want that to minimize.
I think you have it there at the top line.
Yeah, but I was gonna do our history. So we'll go through this first. This is our CMAR. It's 26 pages of data about the wastewater treatment facility. The big thing with our loading, right here, our BODs, our maximum pounds of BOD per day we can put in is 3,898 pounds.
Talk to us, remind people what BOD is again, the biological oxygen demand. There we have some new members. It might be good just to restate that.
Biological oxygen demand. What we do is we take a sample every day, we incubate it for 5 days, and we determine how much oxygen it uses up. And there's a formula that it takes what the oxygen is that was used up and creates a milligrams per liter of BOD, which is the bacteria that uses oxygen, which is bad bacteria, basically. So they can determine how much bacteria is in our wastewater just by the amount of oxygen that it uses up over a 5-day period. As you can see, we're way below limits. Our average per day is around 2,600, and we can go up to 3,800. That number, that 3,898, was increased back in 2020 when we did the oxidation ditch aeration project along with the screening, the new screen. What that did was it helped our pre-treatment with the screen, so got our influent BODs lower, plus it gets better oxygen in there so we can treat more BOD. So we went from 3,200, 3,100 to 3,898, almost 3,900 pounds a day. So that being said, we're good for an expansion. If I can find out how to get this one up here. want to show you. That's going to wreck everything. So this one is this is a history of our flow and our loading. This is from 2018 and 2019. If you can look at it, our design maximum BOD per day was 3152 at the time. And there is, in 2018, there was 3 months that went over that for a monthly average. And we had 15 or 11 days throughout the year that were over the daily limit, which is pretty bad. We actually got a D on that, on the influent flow for that CMAR. The 2019 one's even worse. That had 4 months that were over, 15 days were over, and we got an F on that report. 2020, we did the big project with the oxidation ditch and the screening, and that brings us to here. We have 21 and 22, where our numbers are back down below. We had no exceedances throughout the day, the year, both years, and this year currently. And I guess what Kevin and I were talking about, when we do these improvements to the plant, nobody notices it, nobody sees it. They just flush their toilet and everything works. But this is what happens when we do these improvements. We do a better job treating our wastewater. And hence we get a compliance report now that's all straight A's, and we have no exceedances. We haven't had any in 3 years. Since I took over, we haven't had any. However, Ron is the one that got everything done before me, but so, I mean, that's kind of what we wanted to tell you about the CMAR, is what we do with the CMAR, with the improvements, the way it affects our CMAR and our good report. And I closed it out of here, so I can't get back to it.
I was going to say, well, that's why this report's important, right? It's an indicator of what we're doing right and what needs improvement. We saw that we needed improvements. We had let our utility advisory board know and educated you folks about what needed to be done. You supported us in making those changes and helped finance that, so thank you. And city council. We made the changes and the improvements did happen. So those investments were necessary and they did pay off just as we expected them to. So thank you for you guys' support on what needs to be done. And this report card is helping us determine what directions we need to be taking. So, you know, maybe the DNR doesn't get enough credit, right? Hats off to them for monitoring these things and then giving us the indicators. So they did, and we made the changes and things are better. And it also takes a lot of teamwork down at the plant, Dean's folks.
And if you look on the last page, they have when you get your GPA, they have different recommendations depending on where you fall. And we fall in where there's nothing, no actions are required. Back when we were getting 2.8s and that, it would fall into something needs to be done, and it was the DNR requiring something be done. And it's nice to stay in the no action needed, so we can not spend money on stuff that we don't really want to, and we can improve in other areas. So,
speaking of improvements, Tina, are you going to get into in your next slides? I don't want to step on your toes here about flows and where we've been with flows.
And I have basically these two slides. These are 2 slides that I really emphasize on our CMARs, because this is what basically tells us what we've been doing. And when looking at these slides, I'm just going to give you a quick oversight. We got 2 years prior to the expansion, 2 years after the expansion. The 2 years prior, we were high in BOD. Our flows were what they were, about 130 gallons a day for 18 and 136 gallons a day for 19. Then you fast forward to 21 and 22, we're at 1.3 million a day again, still. Well, there's been quite a bit of expansion in the past 5 years. If you notice that we've added quite a few homes, and this is basically because of our North Interceptor project and the lining project that we did on our, down on the North Interceptor along the river. We were getting so much I&I
Infiltration.
infiltration that it was creating our numbers, our treatment numbers to go higher than we were actually getting from usage. And I did real quick today, I did April of 23. I looked at our well, the water we pumped 990,000 gallons that day, or that month in average. But we treated 1.45 million gallons average per day. April 23 was warm. We had a winter full of snow that was melting, and it was getting infiltrating into our pipes. You go to the May of the same month, most of the snow was gone, or same year. We had 1.3 million that we pumped out of the wells, 1.35 million we treated. So now you're leveling off where you don't get the groundwater that you're getting in April. And then you go to July and it's just the opposite. We got 1.9 million gallons of water we pumped, 1.28 that we treated. It's real dry, the groundwater isn't coming in. People are watering their yards. So that's all going. So what this is telling me is the importance of lining our sewers. We go through this every year. We try and get money to line sewers, and we need to keep doing that. That's in our CMAR that we keep doing it. They ask in here what we're gonna do, what we do for improvements. And that's gonna be something you're gonna approve in the future for us to do more lining. And I can't say enough of why we need to line. And this also is a good indicator of the industry that we bring into River Falls. The wastewater plant in River Falls can basically run itself. It's so consistent. We very rarely change. And that's also, we don't have any industry that is upsetting to the wastewater plant. And that's my soapbox. So is there any questions? If not, I'm going to ask you to approve this resolution.
I do have a question. When you talked about the BOD, when you're out of specs, with the DNR,
Yep.
what's your liability? I mean, do they have penalty clauses based on?
Yes, I can't actually say what they are.
Okay.
Because I've never had one. But we do a monthly report. If our BOD is high, if we exceed in anything, BOD, pH, whatever it may be, Wally is our representative of the DNR, and we send him an email saying, here's what happened. This is why we think it happened. As long as you've got a good explanation and a reasonable, fix, how we can fix it, there's usually nothing that.
Okay. I was gonna say, it's kind of like the letter that West Central Biosolids got. They'll recognize the problem and then they'll ask you what you can do to fix it. And then they'll want proof that you actually worked on it. So they're fairly reasonable that way. They don't go right to fining first stage, but we'd eventually get there. But they're asking you to pay attention to it, submit your facts, and then corrective action.
And I don't know if prior in 2018, did we get fined? Do you remember?
I don't think I haven't seen a fine since I've been here.
It's probably just, a aging plant. We need to fix it. We're waiting for money.
Yeah.
And that's probably how it went.
The most serious thing I think can happen to the DNR, not related to wastewater, but water, would be public notices for bad water. That we haven't been there. I hope I'm not jinxing ourselves or anything like that, but that's the worst, right? You get something in the water and you have to do a public notice because it wrecks people's confidence. It's like anything in life, right? Gaining trust of people. Take you 20 years to gain their trust. You can lose it in 2 days. Bad water, so you don't want that. And it happens in communities.
So, but yeah, the wastewater plant in River Falls is I've only worked at 2 other ones, and this one is the consistency is just amazing. And part of it is due to our process of how we do it and how we maintain it and keep it maintained.
I have a couple questions, Dean.
Yeah.
Mentioned that 3,800 is the max.
Yep.
Do you have triggers when it gets close to that?
So we do it every day. We check it every day.
Hmm.
And actually, about a month ago, it started creeping up. We don't know why. It was, we think we had a bad, for sampling, our sampling, can't think of the word, reagent was bad, and it was reading wrong, but it was actually fine, because we swapped out our reagent and our numbers went right back to normal. So we monitor it every day. And if it starts creeping up, then we're wondering what's going on with the plant. Why is it? You look at all the different factors it could be with the plant, and we try and figure it out. So we did, in that case, we came to the conclusion that we think it was the reagent because it started coming back down.
So if it goes up 10%, 15%, then you know to look at those things.
Yeah.
If it gets up higher than that, do you have procedures and things in place to do a investigation or something?
No formal procedure per se, but we will, even if it goes up, like if usually they're, according to this, like 250 milligrams per liter per day. Even if we get closer to 300 milligrams per liter per day, we'll start looking into why. It doesn't have to go far for us to start investigating what it could be. We had a couple of years ago on a Saturday, we kept losing our DO, and we found out it was the college. Potentially, we think they were, when they
Processing
were
animals.
butchering,
Processing,
or
possibly.
processing,
Possibly.
they were rinsing the.
Yeah.
the-
I don't want to say that 100% definite, but this seemed like a coincidence.
And we mentioned
It
something
might
to
have been
them and
very
it stopped.
likely.
So they were just rinsing everything down the drain rather than putting it in the barrel. I'm not throwing them under the bus, but,
Yeah, may have been it.
and they started putting it in a barrel and now we haven't had that. So
Maybe.
maybe, but it was Saturday at noon, just around noon every Saturday. So something was coming in the plant that was killing off
That
the
upset
bugs.
the system.
Yeah, upset the system, and we notice that. We will notice certain things. All of a sudden something will drop off and something got in the plant that it didn't like, but our plant's big enough where we recover too, so we don't lose our bugs.
You just start checking pumps and testing waters and looking at flows, and you just start at one end and go to the other and see if you can figure it out.
Everybody's pretty knowledgeable, so there's a lot of stuff that you look at. Problem with the BOD is though it's a 5-day test, so you don't have the next answer. So, but you do it every day. So once you get an answer daily, but it takes 5 days to know if you corrected it. So
Yeah, and then based on, what you did in 2019, you said, or what it was at 2018, 2019, how long do you think you have before you'll have to revisit this, start looking at ways on,
well, as long as everybody keeps their mind in who they bring in here as far as industry, this is probably, it's because we only use one ditch. We only use half of our plant right now.
okay.
So this, I'd say 30 years before we're gonna have to, as long as we, like I said,
Unless you get one big user.
we bring in a,
Which then if that happens, that's kind of a
Meatpacking
good
plant.
problem. That's kind of a good problem because if you get a big industry like that, there's going to be money to expand the plant,
right,
theoretically.
unless you bring in a meat packing plant or something, that is not gonna be good. But I would fight that a little bit.
So speaking of good things in the plant, I know you just have a grand finale, like
I do have a
fireworks.
grand
So
finale.
a lot of good things we're doing at the plant, and you guys initiated the $9.5 million investment for our dryer, and Mr. Seamuth is here to give a quick update on where we're at with that. And thinking again the last week, I'm really, really glad we did this, and I don't want to, again, you don't want to celebrate too early, or using a sports analogy, put the bats away at the top of the inning. But we're on the right track here with a good project, and Dean.
So
finish
here's
off.
where we're at with our dryer right here. This is it. We haven't, the last week's been kind of wet, so they haven't been able to do anything. They're trying to pour this floor, and so this part right here, I wonder if the other one's a better view. Yeah. So this in the front, this is the front. This is rooms. I believe the electrical room, there's an office, furnace room, boiler room, polymer room. These are gonna be rooms, so that's why they have walls. Back here, this back here, right in this area, is where the dryer's gonna go. It'll go lengthwise here. On the mezzanine here will be the screw press, goes into a hopper, feeds the dryer, comes out of the dryer over here to the silo out front. And the back side of this is going to be an open area for the second dryer if we ever need it. So
When do you expect the structure to go up, Dean?
they're talking, the building will, this July, they're planning the middle of July. They were going to pour the floor inside here this week, but Mother Nature didn't help today, and I don't know if it's going to all week. But that's the next step, is to pour the floor into here. Then they're going to have to run pipe underground from this building to here, so they can pipe the sludge from there into the building. That's the next two phases. And then the actual structure, it's getting painted right now. It's the steel has been made to fit, and it's at the painter right now, getting painted. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that's where our municipal golf course was. Gosh, is that
Look
great?
at that, huh? We talked about putting a hole over here, but that's where we're at with the dryer. Any questions on that?
So I'm happy. You know, I am happy. We're 3 months in and we don't have a change order to bring you yet. I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Again, come on down anytime if you want to take a peek. My office is over here, and I'll bring you over there, or somebody will.
Any more questions for Dean on the CMAR or the?
I know we went through the CMAR quick.
I do actually have a question. We had talked about infiltration, and I know we had talked about doing a study to size different pipes in the community to know if we should replace or line. And I know there was one problematic pipe that we talked about, I believe went under the Kinney.
Yes.
Has that come to any resolution as to what's going to occur there?
We're going to eventually, we're not going to line it. That was the original plan. It's about 1,500 feet along the Kinney from Division Street, say north.
Yeah.
Just to over the other side of the river. I believe it's 15-inch pipe right now. 21 goes into it on one end. 24 comes out the other end. So that is a bottleneck. We got the cost to line it 2 years ago, and it was way over budget.
That's what started the whole discussion, like line or replace. And then we said, well, let's study this thing first. And the study came back and said, yeah, it'd be better to
Replace
upsize it. And then, so we're going to try to fit that. We're going to go we're in the middle of budgeting right now. So we're going to try to get that in our capital improvement budget in the next couple of years to get that replaced.
But that's the real bottleneck in our system right now.
Also quite a bit of infiltration in that little section.
That's also a lot of infiltration. Gushers is what.
Underneath the river.
So that is our next step for that.
Thank you,
Do you have
Dean.
any money? All right.
All right, with all that being said, I'm assuming we're good on discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, sorry.
Got it. You're gonna.
I would have, no, I did second motion and then we had discussion. I didn't, oh, okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the resolution passes. All right, Kevin, moving on to the reports.
Yeah, finance report. I just put in front of you the finance report that Josh went over last month, so I'm not going to go over it again. He did this verbally last month and said it was just hot off the press, so I gave you a copy. The latest we had is the April finances, so it's what he gave you last month, so it's just there in writing, and that's the latest finance report that I did get from finance. Utility dashboards. I don't know, Jenna Willie, our WPPI rep, on page 13, I think this is pretty nice. this RFMU Efficiency Programs Update. It has a list of our programs that we offer and the number of customers participating. I think this is pretty handy. And then the total incentives given out. That's a pretty nice snapshot of the programs that we're giving and how many people are using them and the money that's distributed. To me, I can look at that and say, wow, is that worth it or not worth it? And widely used, not used. And it gives you room, also gives you room to comment on programs you think may be worthwhile or not. So I like that one. So that's just one of the pieces of the dashboard I wanted to point out. Utility report is pretty self-explanatory. And then
Kevin, back on that
yeah.
efficiency program update. What is tree power?
Tree power is we offer trees. So you can get trees that we have in our gravel bed, I guess, and people can buy those trees or go out and buy a tree and get a rebate for a tree if they turn in their receipts. So we offer rebates for trees that provide shade on a building. Not the whole tree, it's just a rebate portion of the tree. I think someone had like $300 worth of trees I just got a receipt for last week. I think they got $50. And if they're part of the green energy blocks, I think we double it. So I offered that to that person. They said, no, thank you. So they just took the smaller rebate. So that's what that is about. And I jokingly always say the tree powered shade program is in contradiction with our solar programs. You got to be careful you put those trees.
Kevin, are all these programs on the website, explained on the website?
They
again?
are,
Okay.
yes, yep, yes. And we also put them in our packet or our billing inserts. We have billing inserts, and you'll see them in quarterly newsletters, things like that. I actually am talking to Jenna, I think tomorrow, about how we're marketing these programs, what we're going to do to make sure they keep going and folks are aware. And how they're used is directly proportional to how much we market them. So just ask the law guy who's got a sign on every other billboard, right? There must be an equation to how much you market to how much it pays off. And we're open to ideas. Like if you know of a program that's out there that we don't have included, or you think you saw in another community or something, we're always open to suggestions. So. Then, Lene, did you have on announcements? Did you have this page for me? Oh, there we go. You want me to move into announcements if there's no more questions? Sure. Just want to remind everybody of this Thursday night, for those of you who signed up, a 5:30 reception, 6 o'clock dinner that WPPI is hosting, a regional dinner out at Tattersall. And for those of you coming to that, look forward to seeing you. It's always a nice dinner. You get to see other folks from the region. WPPI will be there to talk about what they're offering. It's a chance for everybody that goes to ask questions of them and get under the hood a little bit with WPPI. So pretty casual night, fun night, low pressure. Nobody's going to be asked to buy a timeshare. Almost feels like it going into it, but no, it's not. The parade coming up on July 12th. Sign up to volunteer if you want to get in the parade. Lene has bought a whole bunch of candy you can toss to passersby as you walk through the parade route. So you're welcome to do that and get a t-shirt if you want to do that. Customer Appreciation Event is Thursday, August 8th, 4 to 6 again this year at City Hall. You can be a volunteer. You can serve corn or watermelon or whatever you'd like to do to help with the root beer truck or whoever you feel inclined, or just come and show up and say hello. So you're welcome to do that. We're definitely invited to participate and help if you want on Thursday, August 8th. I think that's all I have. Yeah, if you want a t-shirt, get with Lene by tomorrow. So. So that's what I have for announcements.
Perfect. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.